go. Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today it's my pleasure to have Derral Eves with us. Derral is a founder and executive producer of The Chosen, the highest grossing crowd-funded movie or television project of all time. The Chosen series reaches across religious boundaries to give viewers from all walks of life a non-denominational, non-Hollywood portrayal of the life of Jesus Christ and the people who encountered him. Derral's unique skills in audience development and project distribution account for much of the project's worldwide exposure and success. Derral has worked on countless video projects for 2 decades, spanning everything from religion to pooping unicorns and everything in between. Derral, it's so great to have you on the show.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
So let's first of all, for our listeners who are not familiar with that reference to pooping unicorns, well, give us a little bit of your backstory
little,
around video, like the whole viral video stuff and YouTube, because
right,
you are
right.
a pretty famous YouTuber, founder of Vid Summit, and yeah, many
Yeah, I
views.
mean, yeah, we're still counting. I think we're up to 86 billion now. So, but no, I've been obsessed with YouTube since 2005 when I discovered it, and I've always had a fascination with video. And I've built a career and an agency around helping brands or creators kind of get their videos out there, get more eyeballs, and then convert those eyeballs into money. And one of the things I started to kind of cut my teeth into is working with mom and pop shops. I did a lot of SEO back in the early days. That was in 2006, 2007, getting those videos to rank on Google. And it was just a lot easier back then. And then ultimately, my desire was just to do bigger videos that people would talk about, and had an opportunity to work with Jeffrey Harmon. Was telling me about an idea of a client that he wanted to kind of collaborate on. And so I was the executive producer with Jeffrey on the squatty potty pooping unicorn ad. So it's a pretty amazing ad. It did about $48 million in attributed sales in that first year and really leveled up a company. And it really just shows you the impact of what video can do. And so kind of build a career on doing just really interesting audience development strategies with content, and then really finding ways to monetize, which led me to my passion project, which is The Chosen, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, amazing. And so it broke records, like the highest grossing crowd-funded movie or television project of all time. And yeah, how did that come about? Like, first of all, how did you end up becoming the executive producer and a founder of that project? And then how
Yeah.
did it get so well funded?
Yeah, great questions. So Jeffrey Harmon, who was also the executive producer of the Squatty Potty Pooping Unicorn ad, and he was one of the co-founders of Harmon Brothers ad agency. We worked on probably 5 or 6 different projects together over the course of our careers, and we had this really healthy balance between really ad generated type of funneling, which that's what Jeffrey does, and I do more organic with, ad integration type stuff. And we did, a keynote at my conference that I have called Vid Summit about the Squatty Potty and using that as a case study. And then every year I invite my keynotes to come back. I says that you have an unlimited passion, come back, every year just on us. Thank you for, contributing. And so the next year, I says, "Hey, Jeffrey, you coming?" And he's like, "No, not this year." And so I just went as business as usual with Vid Summit, and it's a great conference and get things going. And the day of the conference, I get this text message, and it's Jeffrey says, "Hey, is my ticket still good?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, I'm gonna be on the plane." So he flew from Utah down to California for the event, and he literally tries to hunt me down in the lobby, and here I am trying to put on an event for thousands of people, right? And he's like, "Derral, you got to come watch this video." I'm like, couldn't he have just emailed me? Like, why? Like, what's going on here? And I didn't have time for it, and I went to go walk away, and I just thought, you know what, he actually just took a plane to show me a video. The least I can do is to take a look at it. So I says, "Hey, how long is it?" He says, "It's about 19 minutes." And I says, good, let me find a place that we can watch the video. So we went into a little conference room, and he had this like 9-inch Chromebook. It's like not the most optimal thing to watch anything. The sound's horrible, but we were in that room, and he was showing me a pilot for, well, it wasn't even a pilot. It was basically it was a creator made a very unique piece of content. It was a short film that he did for the Christmas Eve service of the church. And it was basically showing the nativity and the birth of Jesus Christ, but it was like completely different. It was done through the perspective of the shepherds. And when I first started to watch it, I'm like, oh man, this is really, really interesting. I noticed two things. Number one, it was extremely low budget. I could see it right out of the gate, but the character development was really good. I'm like, man, who is this creator? And Jeffrey goes, well, that's who I want you to meet with, is this creator. And we're just watching it and so on and so forth. And so we get about I would say 14 minutes into it, and then there was a knock at the door. I'm trying to put on an event, and they're like, we need you right now. And so I had to leave. And Jeffrey's like, well, you can't go. You got to finish it out. This is like the best part. And I says, look, I go, I know where this is going. I want to be a part of this. You know me, my heart's for Jesus, and I just got to do it. He says, well, good. I want you to meet the creator, the Monday after Vid Summit. So we finished up Vid Summit. I actually ended up watching the end of that. He gave me a link, and I watched it a little bit more in depth, watched it a couple times, really, really loved it. And I was like really touched by it. And just it spoke to me a lot deeper. Well, that next Monday, I flew up to Provo, and that's where this creator was in. And I was able to meet him for the first time, and it was Dallas Jenkins. And he was telling me about an idea that he had to create a TV series about the life of Jesus Christ, and it would be similar to what The Shepherd was. It was more through the eyes of those that surrounded Jesus, and so the TV show would be about that. And my first thing was, I was thinking about, well, if this guy could do this amazing project with a minimal budget, what would happen if he had like, $1 million per episode, or even, $2 million an episode? What could we do there? And we floated the idea, and that's where Jeffrey was starting a new company that they're doing, Angel Studios, and they were going to be the distributor. So they have a business, but they needed someone to work with this guy to become his partner. And so we kind of hit it off immediately that first day. Our hearts were really to get Jesus out to the world, and so ultimately, he shared his vision. I shared my background, which was in audience development, getting people to see things and converting it into money. And it was like a match made in heaven. And that day I called up my wife. I says, hey, we're going to be spending quite a bit of money to buy the show, this short film. Be a lot of money. It's going to be coming out of our bank account. And we're just starting a business, and she's okay, if it's for Jesus, that's all good. So that's kind of how it started. And so we actually started with zero money in the bank, zero social following, and then we did quite a bit to kind of gather some seed money. But the whole goal was is really share the message, and really define what that message is, and then create an opportunity to crowdfund. But we didn't want to crowdfund it the normal way. We didn't want to crowdfund it like on Kickstarter. We thought to really disrupt Hollywood was to get approval with the Securities Exchange Commission and take public money. So we actually applied for a Reg A, and there's a lot of different steps that you need to go through that. And we did. We actually created kind of our video campaign where we showed The Shepherd, the show that impacted me, and then put a pitch to it of getting people that were interested to back us, so we could prove to the Securities Exchange Commission that we had enough backed interest. And then that led to filing, and then ultimately getting 19,000 people to be involved with the vision and see the vision of a television show. And that broke the all-time crowdfunding record at that moment. And then since then, we've just been adding to it, and we've been crowdfunding every season. We're actually in production of season 3 right now. So we did all of season 1, all of season 2, and now we're in season 3 that's completely funded by crowdfunding. And so pretty amazing model. but it goes to show that today, there's a thirst for really great content. And if you really know how to speak your message and get the vision and then produce high quality content, people are going to get it out there. And that's where we've been able to see kind of this viral feedback where people come on and they recommend it for 5 or 6 other people. And then, as they're coming into the system, they're being more engaged. And so I know that was a pretty long answer of the question, but that's how I got involved with this project. And it's been quite the journey ever since. It's just that from that moment, it was making decisions on how to best navigate this to get it out to the world.
Amazing. And did you have experience in crowdfunding or filing for what is it, Reg A or something like that? Regulation A, is that what
Yeah,
it is?
yeah. So no, I didn't have. Yeah, I didn't have experience in working with the Securities Exchange Commission at all, and so that was something new that we had to go into. And man, I didn't know how much paperwork and the details and all the stuff that actually gets into it, because like you have to do audits and all this other stuff to make everything public, because it is taking public money. But for crowdfunding, yes, I did that fairly early in my career, working with YouTubers and content creators to crowdfund on their passion projects. And I saw the power of an audience, and knowing what would it take to actually get them to back it, which is you have to have credibility for sure. Like you just can't just throw it out there and take their money and run. I mean, this is, if you really want to impact the world, you got to do it the right way. And so we tried to dot every i's, cross every t's, and do it in a way where the crowd felt a part of the project and from day one. And that's something that I've been preaching and teaching for a very long time in crowdfunding and also audience development, is to leverage the audience so they feel like they're a part of it, that they're partners, which they are, and then they go and share. And so that kind of created that first seed of interest, of getting people to see the show, which led a compounding effect to get more people to go
Yeah,
and watch.
amazing. Now, what would you describe yourself as, a faith-driven entrepreneur?
I definitely would be faith driven person
Mhm.
first. And I want to kind of clarify that. I think faith in a relationship with God and Jesus is my highest
Mhm.
priority. And then it's my relationship to my family. And I feel like I was inspired to create. I was inspired to do things. And I honestly do believe everything that I did in work and business, all my successes and failures, led up to the moment where I was able to be a part of the chosen. And like there's not too many projects that you can do that really have this type of impact. And I can see the impact that happens in my own family, and then with other people. We get thousands and thousands of DMs and messages and emails every day of people that were really impacted by the show. And so for me, I would say, I'm God centered first, and then I do believe that God, as a part of what he teaches, is there's a parable about talents, and I think that God gives all of us, his sons and daughters, talents that he expects us to master and to expand. And I think we have certain stewardships, and not everyone in the world has kind of like this entrepreneur
Mm.
drive, but I do. Like I like, he knows me, he knows what I need to do, and I have to be a part of pushing the envelope, disrupting the norm, and doing
Yeah,
things
it's
differently.
interesting you brought up the word stewardship. So I'm reading a book right now called Faith Driven Entrepreneur, and the author in chapter 3 was talking about how we are a steward and not an owner of our assets. So
Right.
100%, we might tithe 10%, but it's actually 100% that is God's. So if you take that
Yeah.
um, approach, on one hand, it's a responsibility because now you're using God's money. All of it is God's money. But on the other hand, it takes a lot of the pressure off because You're not producing results on your own. You're working for God, and uh,
Right.
you know, God's pulling uh, the strings and making the things happen for you, and you're just a uh, willing and hopefully enthusiastic participant and steward. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I believe there's a lot of people that feel the same way. It's like, hey, everything that I have comes from God. I think the biggest thing is our time. I think that if we were to put as much value on anything, the time
Mm,
is the most important. Like, what are we doing to build up the kingdom? You know, what are we doing to develop our relationship with Him? I think that is something that, hey, we can throw money or we can say, hey, we're doing this for God's, whatever. But ultimately, He wants our hearts and He wants our dedication and our time. And I think, you know, even the most simple things during out the day of doing His will, where He's, you know, maybe prompting us or we get a feeling to go and talk to someone or engage with someone or help someone, that is the highest priority. I think as a disciple, I think, you know, there's a different relationship that you have is once you become a disciple, you know, you're going out and doing, you know, and I think that's really important. I think the second thing would be, you know, in this space, if your heart is turned and you believe like I do that all I have is God's and it's not mine and I'm a steward of it, like how best to utilize it and how best to navigate and impact people's lives with what He gave me. And I think that's really, really important. And I take it a high priority. And what's been really nice is having a partner that
mhm.
feels the same way. Like we're not in it for the money. I can tell you that right now. Like we've invested way too much energy, time, and effort into this. It's not about the money, but it's about making something that people can have a deeper relationship with Jesus. Like our goal is to get the chosen out to 1 billion people. We want 1 billion people to see the chosen. And the reason why is because we believe that 1 billion people deserve to see an authentic Jesus that will lead them to their knees and lead
Mm,
them into the Bible. And so there's and this will answer your question here, but there's moments of letting go, and there's a common theme that's been happening for the last 4.5 years of you know doing this project is we feel like where the children of Israel fled Egypt, and the Pharaoh kind of changed his mind, gathered his armies, and was coming after the children of Israel. And Moses and Aaron and the children of Israel were kind of at the Red Sea. We have these moments that we call Red Sea moments where you come to the Red Sea, it's like impossible to cross. You look back, the army's about to take you over, and it's completely out of your control. Like you literally don't have anything else except for a miracle. And I can honestly say we had very pivoted times. You know, probably seven or eight, 9 of those moments every year for the last 4.5 years. You know, and it's like we get to a moment where we cannot turn. We're at a point where all we can do is look up and wait for that miracle. And I'm telling
keep
you,
showing up, don't they?
the
Yeah.
miracles always come, you know, and it's just that at the right moment we just had to submit, realizing it's not us, it's God's work, and we had to back
Mm.
off. And so we'd have those miracle moments, and we were able to cross like the children of Israel on dry ground. And there was another part of that which is really interesting, and I think that we feel like we're still on this is after the children of Israel were in the desert, they had a gift every day because like you know trying to feed millions of people, it's kind of hard. They can't just carry all this stuff, so they had manna drop from heaven, which in Hebrew means gift from God. And you know if you kind of stored it and whatever, it rot, you know, so you had to every day have your hands out waiting to receive. And that's what we call our marketing program at the Chosen. It's the it's the mana marketing program because we only get what we need for doing whatever we're doing and nothing more. And it's just like it just gets, you know, where we always have to put our hand out and wait for God to provide. And that's been a part of the Chosen for the last 4.5 years And even to this day, like we have some very big decisions and things that we're going over, and we're once again hanging our hands out because we don't know exactly what we need to do. We just know that we need to be patient. We pitched our tents. We're just waiting for that manna to fall, and that just kind of, those moments just
Mm.
have been really clear on this path. And so it's tough, especially pushing your ego aside, like, hey, we're all accomplished, and thinking that we can come in and we can save the day, and realizing we're nothing. Like we are literally nothing. All we need to do is to be contrite, and be humble, and be willing to receive. And God has always provided. I can't tell you, like when we needed a specific person for a position, God already prepared them. We just needed to wait to see them show up. It's not like we weren't doing our part. I think we needed to go out and, shake the trees and see what's going on. But it was always someone was being led to help us. And I can't tell you how many people we get random emails or texts or DMs says, hey, have you ever connected with this person? And this person was like totally being prepared by God to help us. Or this person over here was able to do something that we couldn't even do, but yet someone felt led to inform us, but we still had to reach out and get there. But God has been through this project in every aspect. And I think this is really important. Uh, Myself and my partner Dallas, if everything went away tomorrow and that was God's will, we would be okay with it. We would honestly be okay with it because we're just here to
Yeah.
do what He wants us to do. And it could all go away tomorrow, and if that's what He wants, then that we're
Yeah.
happy with
There's
that.
some
Like we
wisdom
just want to
from,
do
I
His
think it's in
will.
the Old Testament. Um, and it's along these lines. If, if God doesn't want it for me, I don't want it either. If God wants it for me, then I want it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is something I learned from Kabbalah. Let me share this with you. A miracle isn't defined as when the impossible becomes possible. A miracle is defined as removing the illusionary veils that don't allow us to see the light in every experience and moment. The light of God, of course. Yeah. So, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, no, I definitely, I think that the biggest thing that we can learn here on Earth is faith, and what faith really is. I've studied what faith is and the depths of it from the Bible stories and so on, and it's just trying to really grasp what's going on. And I do believe that there's a lot of people out there that have faith in God, and it's this pure faith that they know that God can do anything, and they have faith in that as well. I do believe though, and this is me personally. This is not, this is kind of how I feel. I think that God expects us to have faith in ourselves too, like, and that confidence, not only in hearing His word but
Right.
acting upon His word. And sometimes that we might have all faith in God and we'll wait for Him to come do the miracles, but sometimes He expects us to give us the impression to go do, and that's where we need to drop things and just go out and do. And that's something that I was grateful that my dad taught me, of just praying and listening and being willing to be molded and to be utilized, to be God's hands in whatever He wanted me to do. But it takes faith to actually do it. I think there's a lot of people that follow, and I think that they're great followers through their faith. But I think I personally, this is just my thoughts, but I think that that's just not enough. I think that you need to become a disciple, and a disciple goes out and does, and that disciple is someone that acts upon their faith and also their faith in God. And so that's something that I do agree upon, and I think that's something that I don't think is
Yeah.
easy for
Yeah.
people. I think it's difficult. They're easy to pray with their hearts and their lips, but to go out and do is something more intrusive into their lives, and it's more invasive,
Yeah.
and it's more awkward. And I even with myself, as much as I do, it still doesn't take away the
Yeah.
awkwardness of doing
We
some
live
of
in
the
a
things
world
He
of
wants to do.
action, and we are expected to take action. It reminds me of a story of a man in a flood stuck on his rooftop. Do you know about this story?
I'd love to hear it again, but yes,
Okay, yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard that
So he's
story.
praying to God for help. Soon a man in a rowboat comes by and shouts to him, "Jump in, I can save you." And the man shouts, "But no, I'm praying to God, and He's going to save me." So the rowboat and the guy left, and then the motorboat comes by, and same sort of thing. "Jump in, I'll save you." "Nope, oh no,
Yeah.
thanks. I'm praying to God. He's going to save me. I have faith." So the motorboat went by, and then a helicopter came by, and the pilot shouted, "Grab this rope. I'll lift you to safety." "Nope, I'm going to pray to God, and He's going to save me. I have faith." And then the helicopter flew away, and the water rose, and the man drowned. He went to heaven, and then he shows up at the pearly gates, and God's like, uh, the guy finally gets his chance to discuss the situation with God. At which point, God says, "I had." Um, the man said, "I had faith in you, but you didn't save me. You let me drown. I don't understand why." And then God replied, "I sent you a
Yeah.
rowboat and a motorboat and a helicopter. What more did you expect?"
Oh, I love that. No, for sure. And I think all of us can relate at one time or another with the guy on the roof. Like I really do. Sometimes we're so caught up in it and we're so involved that we don't see his hand and we don't see the opportunities too. And I think I've been guilty of that, on multiple occasions. And I think that's where we just have to surrender. I think that is really the key of just surrendering yourself and then really being patient, but looking at what God's hand really is. And so, like as these people come to save, I mean, you could be saved right then and there. That should be the sign from God. Like you just need to change your process and surrender of what your understanding of how God's going to help you going to be, because you don't know what that is. And I think that you just need to be open to receive, and that's like completely surrendering yourself.
Yeah. And also, as a corollary to that, when you see something that you don't like or didn't want, be grateful for that too, because the hand of God is in that as well.
Yeah.
Right. So you just haven't zoomed out far enough to see how it's for your highest and best good.
Could I mention something that happened to me personally?
Please.
So very very much an entrepreneur, and my skill set is like I like to build a team and then they all do specific tasks. I had someone embezzle almost $1 million from the company,
Wow.
and it was so hard. It was so hard. And when I found out, it put us in financial pressure personally from the company. And then on top of it, we owed the IRS a whole bunch of money. And there was just like this compound, really, really big tribulation. And, as someone that I really, really trusted, and it was really, really hard because I really love the individual a lot, and I don't know why they did it or whatever, but it was like it was created a really big problem for me, my company, all of my employees because of the decision of that happening.
Mm.
And I hit a low, Stefan. I mean I hit a low where I was trying to process a lot, and I was literally broken, broken from trust and just everything that was going on, and just all this pressure was coming on. And I just needed to get back into understanding, where I was at. And it was definitely one of the hardest times of my life. It was one of those things that haunted me for a very long time. And then, just because it happened to you doesn't mean that you're out of your obligations and you have to go from there. So it was like a really really intense couple of years. um, and and for me, I look back at that moment and I honestly was like the guy on the roof. I'm like, what's going on here? Are you gonna help me here? What's happening here? And I do believe that looking and knowing how I navigated it, the decisions that I made, how it was able to get me deeper relationship with my wife and also with God. I was able to see it differently. And if I look back, I mean, it's been well over, oh man, it's been 15 years or something like that.
Mm.
But it's like that was a very pivotal point in my journey, and I'm here to tell you that I wouldn't be here today without it. Like I would not be working on The Chosen, because what happened next after that is I had to innovate and I had to go in a completely different direction, an accelerated direction in something that wasn't going this direction. And it caused me to go into YouTube, which caused me to do all this other stuff. So it literally made me pivot, and it was hard. It was a hard thing to get to endure, but I'm here to tell you that I could see God's hand all over it. And even though that the intensity and the weight was there, and sometimes we didn't look up, I had faith that He would take care of it. I just needed to get me mentally back into the game, and then I needed to go where He wanted me to go. And
Yeah.
it was like total pivot from where my company was going. And luckily, we got through it. We got through all that, but it helped solidify a few things that I needed to do to be a better steward, what I needed to do to be a better disciple, what I needed to be as a better husband and father. Like, it really helped me define that. And I would never ever give up that time, because it helped refine me to do what I needed to do. And it put me in the direction where I could make the decisions to be where I'm at today.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll share one of my stories too that is a little bit similar. So I lost 7 figures in December, and that was pretty devastating. And that was my own fault. That was my uh, greed and hubris, doing margin trading and crypto. And I got called. Yeah, I got leveraged out, and it was it was devastating. But it showed me a big um, lesson in humility and in uh, working collaboratively with my wife rather than trying to do it on my own and work around her or behind her back. And it also gave me a lot of um, important lessons in discernment. So where am I getting my information from, and am I kind of going into my heart to see, is this true? Is this right? And not just trying to be too clever. So that was a big mess, and we're still um, experiencing it, but we're I'm managing to dig out of it, but it is a slow process. There's a lot of money, and yeah, big
Yeah.
lesson, big lesson. And would I change it? Would I
It
undo it?
and I
No.
think I think we all need these big
Yeah.
lessons, right? Like, we all need these big lessons. Like, we really do. And I think it's part of it. How do we process it, and what do we do next? And that's where I personally love the relationship I have with Jesus, because, like, when he endured everything, for us, he just didn't endure the sins portion of it, but also the tribulations, and I think um, I during my dark phase, and even today, it's just like knowing that he endured that, he understands what I'm going through, and he can give me clarity if I'll be willing to receive. And ultimately, that's helped me get through some hard
Mm.
times. And it just doesn't take everything away, but I think that the weight of it, and I don't know if you felt that in your experience now, but just the weight of knowing God's put you on the right direction, and you're taking the right steps. It's a little bit at ease, but it's not like completely solved. It's just like you still got to do your part to
Yeah.
dig yourself out, or to have, I guess it'd be have the Lord help you dig
Yeah,
yourself out of
it is a
the situation
collaboration.
that you're in.
God is truly my business partner. I asked him. I did not assume. I asked him, and I waited for him to say yes. And yes, I did receive a yes. And things have been miraculous ever since. I mean,
Yeah.
miracles never stop. We just, it's
No.
the blessings are abundant. It's whether they're revealed to us or not is the question, right? So it's all
Yeah.
blessings, but have the blessings been revealed or not? And I feel in this case with my money loss, it was already revealed as a blessing, and I would not undo it, even though it was only at the time of this recording 6 months ago. It's such a gift to be able to learn a powerful lesson like this in humility and discernment and collaboration with my wife, collaboration with God, and not being too big for my britches. That it's that lesson is priceless. It's worth so much more than $1 million. You can't put a price on it. Now, you mentioned a little while ago about a parable about talents. Can you elaborate a bit more on that parable?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been my go-to parable when it comes to business because I think God gives us things to have stewardship over, and it's a parable that Jesus taught about different servants that had different types of talents that they were given. And one of the first things that kind of stood out to me was nobody was ever given the same. You know, it's just like you had a little bit. There's like a little bit of variation between it, but the goal was, could they see an increase, you know? And there's different people, like, you know, they had one that kind of buried the talents in the ground. It's like, well, you can't increase something if you just kind of stash it aside, right? And so like that itself has kind of led to me of kind of what God expects us to do with the talents that he gives us. And I think these are talents that are innate
Hmm.
in our spirit, and I think that it's like, hey, we need to develop those, but more so we need to gain other talents. And let me just give you a couple examples. Like I think that we're inclined to be who we are, and it's kind of our nature and it's in our spirit. But I think God wants us to be, to increase our talents. Like if we're not strong in something, then we need to learn how to become strong in that with his help, of course, right? And it's just more expanding who we are. And as we expand who we are, we're able to help him even more by helping ourselves first, by increasing ourselves in that realm. So I'm always on a
Hmm.
quest to learn.
Me too.
um, I think learning is the best way to increase talents. And I think that if you're only just doing the day to day where you're getting up and just doing your life and whatever, and you're not learning, I think you're missing out on really developing your talents. I think it's just more putting your talents in the ground. I think in that sense, if you're not really expanding. So I'm obsessed with reading. I'm obsessed with learning. I'm obsessed by watching content that can help me elevate myself, to really um, you know, um, find ways to improve. And luckily, I had some great mentors along the way. People that my grandfather and my father, and also very successful people out there. And then two people that I went to school with. It was just people that helped me change my perspective on something. But my dad gave me some of the best advice when it comes to increasing talents and what to learn. And I think this goes back to show that we got to have humility. But he says, Derral, every person that you come in contact with can teach you something that makes you a
Hmm.
better person. You just need to be open to see what that is, and not let your arrogance, not let your candor interfere with what they can teach you. And I've met people that I'm like, there's not one thing that they can teach me ever, just because I just wasn't on the same thing. And then I just take a step back, like, no, they need to teach me something. And sometimes they're just teaching me patience, saying more patience with the situation with them. But I think that's what we need to be. Is I think as you become a follower of God, we you got to follow and you got to do, and when you start to do, that's when you become a disciple. And I think part of discipleship is really learning and refining. And it could be like Paul of old, as he discovered who Jesus was and is. He refined himself to be a very powerful disciple that brought thousands, to Jesus. And I think that's the key, is really knowing where we're at and knowing that we're incomplete, but willing to work on ourselves to get us to where we need to be. And then of course, using God's grace. Like like we always need the grace, to help us
Yeah.
get through that. But hopefully we can refine and take that knowledge and
Yeah.
become something greater.
And when you're praying um, to remember that humility and remember all the mistakes and the mishaps and the falling short that you've been doing, so that you're not coming from a place of arrogance when you're making your prayer to God. Yeah. Now, you mentioned you're
Yep.
an avid reader. I strongly encourage you to read this book if you haven't already. It's called "You Were Born for This" by Bruce Wilkinson. He's also author of the Prayer of Jabez. If you've, yeah,
I'll put
are you
that on my
familiar with
list.
this book? Oh, I
I'm
think you're
not.
going to
No, I'm
enjoy
not.
that. And the gist of it is, we can deliver God's miracles, and it starts with a simple volunteering, just like Isaiah did. It was verse, what was
Yeah.
it, like 6:8, I think, is in the book of Isaiah. And he showed up at the feet of God, and then he says, "Here I am, Lord, please send me." Right. So essentially, he's interrupting a board meeting between God and archangels, who's going to deliver which miracles and where and when and how. And here's little
Yep.
Isaiah saying, "Hey, send me too, send me." And so you can do that. You can do that. And when
That's
you
right.
do,
That's right.
when you make that request, God delivers. And you just have to be ready to take that action that might feel uncomfortable. Like, okay, here's a stranded motorist. I never stop, but I'm feeling the nudge to do it. Okay, I'm going to do
Yep.
it. Right. Or maybe you're used to giving
Yeah.
$5 to a homeless person, but this time you're instructed, nudged, to, with a still small voice, to give everything in your wallet. Like this happened to a friend of mine. I'm in a group of
Right.
entrepreneurs, and we read books together. And that was one of the books we read, was "You Were Born for This." And he reports back on one of our biweekly meetings on Zoom that he did that with a lady who was the waitress at the diner where he and his family were eating. Everything in his wallet was $109, and so he tells the lady, "How does $109 tip sound to you?" He could just feel that she was struggling, and that there was, like, he felt the nudge. And so he acted on it, and then she started sobbing, and
Right.
she showed the text message exchange between her and
Yeah.
her mom. And it said something like this: "Daughter, I need $109 for my meds. I can't afford it. Please, can you help me out?" And her daughter writes back,
Just
"I don't
the
have,
right
I
amount. Oh
don't
my
have it.
gosh. Yeah.
I can't even meet my own bills. I'm sorry." And that was that day.
Yeah.
It's miraculous. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And so you can be part of this on an ongoing, regular
Yeah.
basis.
I love
Yeah.
hearing stories like that.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
um,
So one thing, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier. The one thing that I was saying is to be his hands and to go from there is being willing to help. And luckily, my dad has taught his children, especially me, as he mentored me along my childhood, to pray, to be open to see what God needed you to do. And I think there's one thing of just feeling the nudge, but to actively pray for it, and then
mm,
to actively seek it. And I think that is the difference between just doing it occasionally and then doing it here, God, take me or let me do it. Is you're just volunteering every day. Hey, just prompt me what I need to do. And luckily, I had some really amazing experiences, and some are too personal that I wouldn't want to share publicly. But there was one when I was going through school, and I would always just in my prayers just say, hey, if you need me to do something, just let me know, and I'll be aware. I'll be aware. Just prompt me, and I'll go and do. And when I was going through school, I was working nights. So I was work from 9 o'clock at night, 6 in the morning, and then I'd drive down, kiss my wife and newborn baby, and then drive up to the university, which was about 40 miles away. So I put about 100 miles on my car every day, just because of where I was at. I was up in Zion National Park, and then I'd go up to Cedar City to school. And I was a walking zombie because my classes were kind of spread out, and my day would kind of end at school about 5, is but about the time I'd drive home, and I get home at 6, and then I'd be back up at 9, and so that was kind of my schedule at the time. And I remember very vividly praying that I would be open to help God in any way. He just needed to inspire me, and He knew my situation. But I was coming out of class, and I had to go on the opposite side of campus, and it was like between classes. I'm always almost late to that class every single time, and that I felt very hurried between classes, just because the other teacher was very strict on anyone that was coming in late. Even though it was a university, they didn't even care. And anyway, I go to leave, and I'm really ready to just put my backpack on and just start running, so I wouldn't be late. And I turned, and as I just put my backpack on, I just noticed someone out of the corner of my eye. I turned over there, and I felt inclined to stop and go talk to him. And here I was like, okay, here's where it at. And this is something that my dad taught me: is we'll get all these impressions, but we can have confirmations for those impressions too. And I'm like, God, is that where I need to go?
Yeah.
And I felt
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where I need to go. That was that tug that you feel. And so we went over and talked to him, and it was like the first thing that came out of my mouth was Jesus loves you. And I'm like, that's the weirdest thing. I mean, here's some random guy saying that I said to him, hey, Jesus loves you. And the look on his face, he just went
Mm-hmm.
pale, and he started to cry. And he goes, I needed that today. And we just sat and talked. I just totally missed my class. And
Yeah.
because that's where I needed to be at that moment. And I didn't know what was going on with the guy's life. I had no idea. I just knew that's where I needed to spend my time. And with the craziness, I left, and we hugged and whatever, and just went. And he was just having some struggles in school with family things. We were able to talk. Well, we exchanged email addresses, and that night I was at the hotel doing the night audit, and I get this email coming in, and it's from that guy. And the guy says, "Hey, you probably won't know this, but I need to probably tell you the full story." But that day, before I went to school, I was pleading to God to say that, basically prove that
Mm.
you exist. If not, I'm taking my life by the end of the day. And where you were able to come up and say that God loves you is just an affirmation that God lives, and He works through others.
Wow.
And I am so grateful for you, because now I know that He lives through your actions. And so, like, that kind of solidified me at a very, very young
Mm.
age to always try to do that. Now, Stefan, I'll be honest with you, life is busy, and sometimes you get out of the groove, and you get so in the world, but that's what I think we need to do: is stop and really ask to be God's hands to whatever He wants us to do. Like, and we have to be willing to do it. And I think the more that we're
Yes.
willing to do it, the more opportunities we have. And that's where I that journey has helped me impact people's lives. Well, let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Help me witness God impact people's lives.
Yeah.
That's the better statement, because that's true. I've been able to witness things that I would never see otherwise. And it helps strengthen my relationship with God, and it helps strengthen my relationship with the
Yeah.
person. And it's just beautiful. And I just wish everyone
Mm.
would
Yeah.
experience
You
it,
did something
that
really
way.
important just
So,
there. It's the last step in the process that Bruce Wilkinson teaches in his book, and that is to transfer the credit back to God. It's really easy to like take in all
yeah,
these ego boosts and like, oh, you saved my life, and or you made such a difference for me. And it's like, well, it was God who did it. Not even saying, well, I'm just the messenger. There's still veiled
yep,
ego in that because it's all about me. I'm the messenger, right? I'm just a messenger. No, no, this was all God.
right,
Yeah, really important. Now, back to the parable about the talents and burying the talent in the ground. Uh, that reminded me of a friend. I'm not going to say who it is, but his ex-wife now. Uh, they he told me this story when they were still married. A mutual friend who receives guidance and information from God, as we all do, but his connection is very strong. He warned my friend that his wife was not sharing her gifts, specifically her gift of healing. So she has healing hands, and in fact, she grew up in Central America, South America, somewhere, and it was really remote. And other tribes would come from far away to visit this child who had put their hands or her hands on them and heal them. And when she moved to North America, she did not let anyone know that she had this ability, that she had this gift. And she has not healed anyone since. So decades. And the warning from the mutual friend was, this is not going to go well for your wife if she continues to hoard this talent, this gift. Yeah. And she never did. And they got a divorce, and I don't know what's happening to her now, but I'm sure she's not sharing that gift because it's too out there. And she likes to fly under the radar. So really sad. And this sort of thing doesn't come without consequences
Yeah.
when you bury your talents in the ground.
Yeah, and fortunately, I think all of us do that. We have some talents that we bury in the ground, and I think it's just more identifying our talents and things that we need to expand. And I think even though that might be a really difficult thing for her and so on, we don't necessarily know what's going on in her life, or all the stuff that's going on. And I think even for
Yeah,
us,
true.
like, seriously, I know I'm hiding talents in the ground, and I'm not expanding those areas. And I think it's just we're at a point where we just got to evaluate ourselves and evaluate our connection to God, and just see what we can do a little bit better. And I think that's the whole thing. Is I do believe 100% that we're saved by grace. I'm a firm believer of that. But I do believe the people that are saved by grace, those that choose to be a disciple, you always need to be a little bit better. You always need to figure out ways to really help, and that's a journey too. And I think that as we're assisting Jesus with his work and helping others, there will be certain talents that we hide just because either we're embarrassed by it, or it's not comfortable, or it's not awkward, or it's awkward in this situation, or whatever. And that's where I feel like we, as those disciples or followers of Jesus, need to step up and do the extreme
Yeah,
when the
that's
extreme's
the
asked.
invitation.
Yeah. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, this was uh, such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing so vulnerably, not just the successes but the hard lessons too. That was beautiful. And if our listener or viewer wants to check out the the, the chosen, if they want to learn from you, follow you, where should they
yeah,
go?
go to thechosen.tv, and you can see it's available on Amazon, Roku, even Peacock. I mean, just different places. But I think to see the full functionality, if you go to thechosen.tv, you can see what we're
Awesome.
doing there.
And then what's your social?
Social security number.
Yeah, right.
Or you're
Not
saying the
your
social
socials.
following. I'm just teasing you. Yeah, just anything that the chosen series, the chosen TV series, across everything.
You have quite a following on social media yourself personally too.
Yeah. Not as much as the chosen has a lot more than I do personally, but
Yeah,
well, I guess on my private one, but I own other channels that we have a pretty big following.
yeah. Well, we'll put that into the show notes as well.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Derral. This was great, and you're an inspiration. So keep doing what you're doing and revealing more light in the world. And yeah, thank you for that.
Thanks, Stephan.